Good afternoon, everyone. Council President John Goodhouse here.
And just tired City Councilor Tom Anderson.
So this is a series we've been doing for council outreach, interacting with the community. Anything from any questions anyone has to questions about the upcoming levy. We're currently in the budget cycle right now. The City Council and then the Budget Committee, which is made up of 5 citizens. So we have 5 from council, 5 from citizens, met yesterday all day from about 8 to 4:30 or 5 o'clock to go over the city's budget. Had a great discussion. That's actually online where people can go back and rewatch that, the recordings, the video of that. And I think Kent Wyatt, our communications manager, is here. He's typing up questions for us so we can see what it is. He'll put a link there where people can jump on there and go back and see what the budget cycle is like. We have our next one and final one on Thursday night this upcoming week. And there's an opportunity for citizens to call in, ask questions, make comments. There's a lot of people I've seen through social media and events that people have questions. So it's a great way to jump in there and ask what's going on in the city. Maybe someone's not sure of what a certain fund does or why there might be excess in a different fund. I always like to remind people that in the city, we have multiple sources of revenue and they go into certain different buckets of money or pots of money. And those can only be used for what they're collected for. We collect a lot of money for water. We have a big water infrastructure, some big reservoirs coming up in the future. So we have tens of millions that have been collected from ratepayers to go ahead and do those capital improvement projects. And those money has to stay there to do that funding. If we were to use it for somewhere else, then we would have been disingenuous in collecting that money. But we're looking for questions. People go ahead and comment, ask any questions in the comment section. And Councilor Anderson and myself will go ahead and answer them. Anything you'd like to say?
Well, the budget session was done virtually, and a lot of people aren't used to that right now, so we didn't have quite the attendance from the public that we had hoped for. So this is your chance to kind of chime in on any pet projects that you're thinking about supporting in Tigard. Just questions about the budget in general. We had a few of those, but generally we have more people come when we have it in person, but we're in the virtual age for a couple more months, so chime in here, and if we can't answer it, we'll find out people who can. We have staff, finance, and city manager, and quite a few people on the line last night, or yesterday, but we'll get those questions to them if we can't answer them, and but we'll give it a shot.
Yes, and we have lots of things going on in the city right now. We did have a Tigard Cares program that came out to help business owners. We also had a RAFT program which helped out the nonprofits. There's been a lot more need for people needing food, shelter, rent assistance. We also, at the last council meeting, we did do some economic relief where if anyone that's on unemployment in the city of Tigard can submit that for your utility bill and get your base water fee waived. We're also doing it for businesses where if they can show that they've been economically impacted from this, they can send in their water bill and have their base water fee waived as well. We did on all the bills the city does collect, we have waived the late payments on those, and we have deferred payments for alarm permits for if needed, and it was shown a proof that you've been affected by this pandemic and COVID-19, that we can delay the collection of your alarm permit for both for residents and for businesses. And then the last part, we were working on a program to help businesses get back up and going, where businesses can work on what their messaging will be, how to get out and reach out to them, kind of working on a coalition for the businesses to work together, and really encouraging Tigard residents that if you do shop from a local business, do share it on social media, take pictures, either use DoorDash to get food from a business, or a lot of the businesses downtown Tigard have curbside pickup where you can go get coffee or sandwich or food or get a growler fill and go home. So a lot of businesses are still open with social distancing. They do have ways that you can either get something delivered to your car or go in there, but the best way to really support a businesses during this time too is to take pictures and share that you're frequenting and seeing those businesses.
Washington County will apply for phase 1 reopening soon. Hopefully that'll be in a week or two. But for now, stay at home, stay safe, enjoy the weather. Nice day today.
There's a question, what is the status of the city's support for businesses? We did do the Tigard Cares program. which did give some grant funding to some of the businesses. They also gave loans to other businesses, and Kent can post a link to the website that shows the Tiger Cares as far as what businesses were helped by that. And the next phase is going to be Tiger Works, which is going to be a program, and Kent can share that as well in the comments. It's going to be a program to help businesses get back on their feet, work on their strategy for reopening, getting the word out to people to come, customers come frequent them and things like that. A lot of people with this new climate, business may not be what business was before, or some people may need help with people might not feel comfortable come get their hair cut or something like that. So businesses may need to communicate better on what processes they're doing, how it's safe, and how they can come and visit them.
We're actually working with the state. The state is probably more critical as far as funding goes than the city is. They're going to have some more money available, and so we're working with the state to see how we can get that directly to the business. We also work directly with the Chamber of Commerce. So if your business in Tigard and you don't belong to the Chamber, probably be a good idea to look into that, because they have a lot of communication that way.
The next question: what happened at the Budget Committee meeting yesterday? Any decisions made? We spent majority of the time getting presentations from the different departments, talking about what's going on, what they have accomplished, what's going to be accomplished in the future, what projects we're working on, what staffing levels they need, where our current revenue is at, and we're doing well. We're keeping our good credit rating, but we are bringing in less than we do have for the needs we have to put out. And the only decision really is made is that the Budget Committee also determines and makes decisions for the two urban renewal districts, which is downtown Tigard, and also the Tigard Triangle, which is 99W, 217, and I-5, that whole area in there. And we did approve those budgets because they're basically simple budgets as far as bringing in the tax money there and putting it back into that district, where it can only be spent in that district for projects to take a blighted area and improve the roads or encourage development and infrastructure during those areas.
So the rest of the part of the budget, the big part will be, especially the general fund and all the enterprise services, everything is going to be approved hopefully on Thursday evening. We kind of waited until after the election. As you know, we have a Keep Tigard Safe, the police option levy, and those results will come in Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Hopefully we'll know the results Tuesday night, and then we'll shift gears either way to see if we're going to have to find funding another way for the police, or if that's going to be taken care of.
And the big thing, as Councilor Alford said, is that we need to wait on which direction that levy is going, whether it passes or fail. We can't approve a budget until we know if we're going to be adding 8 new officers, a school resource officer, and providing mental health and de-escalation training to all of our officers. So that's kind of a big unknown. What's going to happen, how that'll affect the budget or not affect it. If people haven't been following, it's a really important matter. Currently in Tigard, we have 3 to 4 officers at any time patrolling 5 patrol districts, which means that we don't have an officer in every part of Tigard, which means it's a little harder for them to get around. During this time right now with COVID, there's not as much traffic on there, so we've seen a little bit of decrease in response times just because there's not as much traffic to get through and get around. But the problem is that lately we've been having a lot more crimes, burglaries, there's been a lot more domestic violence, and we've had actually a couple situations where what this levy is meant to prevent is to be able to respond to 2 priority calls at the same time. We've actually had that, and we've had a situation where we can't respond to both those calls at the same time, or the officers have had to be in the middle of one priority call and leave it while actually a suspect's been running around downtown Tigard in handcuffs to go to their priority call to come back and then find him. And when you have a police department that's drastically understaffed, you can't properly contain a crime scene or search for someone that may have committed a crime and escaped, because you can't set up a safe containment field for the police officers to go get that criminal. So the passage of this will really help with be able to respond to 2 priority calls at once. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, does this mean there'll be more people in the neighborhoods for police? That means that those will be able to spend more time on the off roads. Right now they mainly patrol the artillery roads and the main roads. But with this, you'll see more police presence in neighborhoods, which will deter more crime. You'll be able to spend more time responding to calls and getting to those calls quicker.
I think the chief's idea of putting an officer in a district, in a specific area, day after day, allows that officer to get to know that neighborhood a little bit better than if they were patrolling the whole city, and you could get to know those officers as well. There's an interesting fact that Chief was on the call yesterday, of course, and she mentioned that we had lost a sergeant to a competing agency. That's always troubling. That he took a job at another police department in the area, and so we're fighting against that. We don't like to keep morale up. That happens, of course, but when we're so, a senior member like that, when we lose him, that really hurts. We also have one officer who is on National Guard duty for a year. Is that right? Or, yeah. So we're not full even when we have everybody there. We have people coming and going. So we need additional officers, no question.
And as Councilor Anderson said, when we don't have as many officer staff, then it doesn't give time for officers to take days off or have that time to really refresh themselves between calls. And if you have a department that doesn't have enough staff to give you backup, it's not the safest scenario for an officer to respond to a call. They don't have adequate officers, and so that is the problem. And with losing an officer to another department, officers will look and say, well, can I go somewhere else that's properly staffed, that has the support and has the financial backing?
So just to answer the question that was posed, if the levy doesn't pass, will officers be added to the budget? And that is a hard question that we're going to have to grapple with. Certainly the mayor wants to fund some, at least, and find maybe other ways, maybe a business tax, maybe, well, we've got a bunch of alternatives, but the levy was the best way to do it is equitably and have more people share that cost, and that's why we decided to take it to the voters. So we don't know is the answer. Will officers be added to the budget? We are going to try to support the police as best we can.
And not to sound too optimistic, but it's really crucial this levy passes, because we are going to be in a hard situation if this doesn't pass. We're drastically understaffed and we need to add officers, but from the budget, we're already making cuts, and even just to operate the way we are, we don't have enough money to do that. So that's going to be a hard decision if this doesn't pass. Really, what to do? Do we just keep the officers at the same level? Do we hope that maybe come back again for another levy? Do we decide we want to look at their options? But with the budget committee being 5 councilors and 5 citizens, that's something that they would all have to take a look at. Really, what I just encourage people is to vote yes for the levy, and encourage neighbors and people to vote for it. We're looking at a levy that's adding 8 officers, a school resource officer, the mental health de-escalation training, that's just going to only cost the average household $6 a month. And Tiger's never had a levy. This will be the first levy ever in the history of Tiger. And so this is something where Tiger's run lean. Back in the 90s, we got locked into the lowest tax code, which means we collect a third less than what Beaverton does. And I've had people say, well, Beaverton's twice the size. Well, it's per assessed 1,000, so it's be able to offer the services to the population size you have. So that tax rate will basically be the same whether you're at 50,000, 500,000. It's supposed to take care of the need of your population size. And back in the 90s, we got locked into a tax rate where we were running extra lean. We had nothing on the tax roll, and we were going to get to choose where it was, and it just got immediately frozen at that point, where Beaverton had a bunch of extra bonds and things on there. They all fell off, which left them with excess cash and dollars extra they could spend. Plus, we're the only city in the area that doesn't have a police levy as well on their tax roll, and other ones have a THPRD and other things like that. So we've been running lean, and it's something we really need for $6 a month.
For example, King City just renewed their safety levy last cycle, and people may not realize that, but that's how they fund their police.
That's the next question. How did COVID impact the budget, proposed budget? Any adjustments to support businesses and community groups? One of the things in Oregon or with Tigard is a majority of our revenue comes from property tax. The only 2 areas that have really been affected by it is our transit lodging tax, which we get money from hotels every time there's a head in the bed. We get money from that for the city. And the other part is our gas tax. And so we're seeing with people not driving, there's been a drastic drop in that. So those are two areas. That's part of what we were talking about at the budget committee is how do we know how long this is going to go on? What's going to be the future effect? Are we going to have something where in November when people pay their property taxes that they're not paying them, or there's delays in collecting that money? And then any adjustments to support businesses was the other part. And we did do the Tiger Cares program where we were able to turn a couple $100,000 into $1 million through grants and then loans. We did do assistance for nonprofits, and we're doing a program, and I think can't post it, and you can post it again, but it's back up in the comments. So there's going to be a Tiger Works program that's going to help with businesses, along with residents and businesses can also look to get their base water service fee waived, and we're also doing an extension on alarm permits if people can't do that. But that's going to be the big unknown in the future is how the big impact is going to be on the budget.
So what the city has done as far as public works that takes care of the parks and the water and the sewer and all that stuff, they have not hired their temporary seasonal workers that they would normally do this time of year, and we're waiting. We may hire those back, but it's going to be a case-by-case basis. There haven't been any layoffs per se, but we're not filling any of the openings that we have in the city. We had a performance audit done a couple years ago, and we made a bunch of cuts 2 years ago. A couple $1 million in cuts here, and a couple, $1 million there. Anyway, so we're in actually pretty good shape. We don't have a big PERS problem here in Tiger because we have shifted away from that years ago. So we're actually okay with that.
Well, and to correct you, the city staff decades ago, we switched into the defined contribution, and the only one on PERS are the police department. So that has reduced our liability on that.
As compared to other cities.
Who have all the city employees on there. So we only have a third of our staff that are on PERS. And as Councilor Anderson said, last budget cycle we cut $500,000 from the budget, and the cycle before we cut $2 million. So that's kind of, and we've had some where we've done a freeze on some positions where we haven't rehired. But I believe through this COVID, I think the city has laid off 22 employees. I think 22 employees. The libraries had to lay off a few. We've had some parts and staff where the first couple weeks when this happened, there was jobs for people to do, but we've had to furlough or let go of 22 employees in the city due to this response.
So the next question, what other decisions are facing the budget committee? Well, the budget, this packet is about this thick and about 800 pages or something. So a lot of the stuff like the water and the sewer and the stormwater are all paid for by the fees that are coming in. So those are earmarked and those are safe, and you'll continue to get those services, no problem. There's a couple other funds that we don't need to worry about because it's kind of the same thing. They're paid by our tax dollars. But the general fund is the one that we kind of have the most discretion over. And those are the decisions that are facing the budget committee. So, parks maintenance, help me out, Councilor.
So from the general fund, we have police is a big portion of it. We have library, we have park maintenance, public works. Some of the big entities in the budget really are the police, which is almost half the general fund. Public works is a huge portion that does anything from street maintenance to park maintenance to doing curb cuts, doing different things. The curb cuts are where a corner of an intersection, if anyone's seen those installations of basically the ramp that can go up and it's got the yellow dots on there. That's been passed by the federal government, part of the ADA Act, where we're required to, whenever any resurfacing of an area is done or new sidewalks or pavements put in an area, we're required to make all those ramps ADA compliant. So some of those we're taking a look at, but we're trying to figure out as far as taking care of park maintenance, taking care of backlogs, with taking a look at the library as well, and some of those services.
So there was also a library measure from Washington County on the ballot, And I think Library Director Bernard was saying that 40% of their funding comes from that fund. So we're hopeful that actually the library passes, and it usually does, but we don't know in these times. So if the library doesn't pass, the Washington County Library funds doesn't pass, then we have to shift gears at our Tiger Library as well. And that may mean reduced hours, less inventory. We'll have to see what that looks like.
And the library one is that's just a renewal of what's been on the property tax already, so it's not gonna be an additional tax, it's not gonna be anything different. It's just gonna be a continuation of what's been on there for the last, how many cycles, it's been the same, not really much of an increase. One thing I was gonna say while we're waiting for other questions is that I've heard a lot of people say they see a lot of expansion at Tigard, and especially out on the Roy Rogers area where there's a lot of new homes and things like that being built. And people say, well, why doesn't the city have all this extra money? Well, as soon as a new home is built and someone occupies that home, it costs more for that city to provide services for that home than that resident does. With that tax code I mentioned earlier, back in the 90s with Measure 5 and 50, basically the city gets the money based off the assessed value. So if someone buys a home up there for $600,000, the assessed value is going to be something in the mid $300,000 range, and the city of Tigard gets $2.51 per assessed thousand off that. And so if you were to take a calculation and add that up, that's not a lot of money we're collecting for that compared to the service that we're having to provide with police, public works, library, city staffing, all those different areas that basically keep a city running. And that's why the budget cycle is so important for people to take a look at, because until you delve in there and you watch the 6 hours of video and the PowerPoint presentations, you really get a feel of what the city does. Behind the scenes, people, they go to work, they turn on their water faucet, but there's so much work that goes involved to keeping the water clean, the streets maintained, our sewer system, they clean that out regularly, the clean water services, keeping the streets maintained, working on projects. There's a project up off of 121st and Greenfield where months ago a pipe broke, washed all the dirt out underneath the road, and that's going to have to be a project that's $500,000 that's having to be repaired, and that comes from some of those funds where we have those reserves in there.
We can talk more about the building too if we want to later, but there's another question. Is the city receiving funding from the state and federal government for COVID costs? Not federal, as far as I know, but the state does have a bucket of money that they are going to disperse to the cities. Rep. Tina Kotek was talking about that just the other day, so I think they're trying to decide which cities get what, which counties get what. So it'll probably go from the state to the county back to us. So we're anticipating, yes, that we will get some funding from the state.
Yeah, there's some funding. We're not sure how much with the federal government, with the different packages. They're calling them COVID 1, 2, 3, 3.5. They're calling those numbers. So if you hear that talk, that's what those packages are. The last cycle, the federal government did funding for cities 500,000 above. That's only about 19 to 36 cities in the United States, and there was money that was given to states into those large cities that was meant to go to the smaller cities, like Tigard, that's got 54,000 population. But there's actually a majority, huge portion of the United States is made up of cities size of Tigard and smaller. So there's currently a new project that's being worked on to get funding for the small cities. We're part of the League of Oregon Cities and the National League of Cities, and we've really been pushing hard for the federal legislators to pass funding for the smaller cities that are affected by, with us, we're not as affected, but we're still affected with some of the areas, and we're going to have more effects coming on, but to have money go directly to us to take care of those needs. So that's something we're trying to work on and get more money, but right now it's still a lot of unknowns, what we may or may not get and what we can do.
Okay, we have a question from Corey Sambi. Help with expediting unemployment, suffering greatly. Eviction moratorium, haven't paid April or rent and terrified. So, as you know, the cities don't get into the unemployment, but we do have some standings with our elected officials in Salem, and you know, I'm not sure I really understand the bureaucracy that's holding these things up, but if you've applied for unemployment, I assume it's coming.
Well, so with the unemployment, the problem with the Oregon system is it's been an antiquated system for a long time, and they're currently rushing right now to get that updated and work on it, and they're working, I think, 18 hours a day and giving time then for the updates to refresh in the system. I do have, and I don't have it accessible at the moment, I do have an email address that I can share in this chat, or I can send it to you, but I'll send it in this chat later after we're done. That's as an email that you'll be able to get more direct response. Right now when people are calling in, I've heard people calling, it's almost like back in the day, the radio talk shows, we were trying to win concert tickets, where you call, I've heard one of the calls I was on with the governor said that she talked to someone that called 3,000 times in one day, and finally on that 3,001, someone answered. This email though will be able to have you can send in your basically your situation, and they'll be able to respond or at least take a look at it, and you'll be able to get through that way. So I'll share that. The council did pass an eviction moratorium, so that is in place currently right now.
And Governor Brown did as well, so that's a state mandated thing. We've heard a few stories about landlords that have gone ahead with evictions, but there's very, very few. Obviously, they don't make the news. If you haven't paid rent in April or May, just please contact your landlord or your property management company and tell them your situation. And again, we can help with the utility payments. If you just quick documentation over to the city, we can help with those. But really, talk to your landlord. And I understand there's some emotion around that, to be terrified, but you got to communicate, and hopefully those checks will start rolling in for you.
And I think Kent will share the link on how people can submit their utility bill, or submit for the utility bill to get the base water fee waived on that. And we're also looking for any suggestions of what people, either individuals or businesses, what the city can do. So if there's anything above and beyond what we have done, please let us know. The one thing we're up against though is that we have a limited budget, so it may not be necessarily financial, but one of the things I've been kind of considering, we're looking at, is if we maybe can defer some costs or parts of it, where we were defer an item for a couple of months or until people got back on track or got their unemployment check, then they could pay that amounts back. We're looking at some of those options. Councilor Anderson had brought during the budget committee, take a look at getting more hotspots for people, where people may not be able to access online if they need to access resources or file claims or do things like that as well. So we're looking at maybe giving an option for that as well. And how long is the eviction moratorium in place? I think we did it it was a couple months, and it's kind of it's something we're looking at it as things go on. We have the state of emergency in the city, which allows us to go ahead and do these moratoriums and things like that, and it's something we'll keep extending as long as this keeps going along and there's delay. Once the things really kind of get back to normal, or places are open or people can go back to work.
Yeah, it's a little unclear. You can just Google state of Oregon eviction moratorium. That's Governor Brown's. That could change as some of these counties, more rural counties, open up, but it's going to be in place in the metro area for quite a while.
I got her email address. Corey's.
Okay, so we can send that to you, Corey. As far as I'll send that link to you, and I'll also post this in here so people that are watching can share that link with other people as well. Message from Chris Barrett: vote yes for Tiger safety measure, Lizzie. 34-295. Let's keep our city family friendly and clean. And also thank you, Tigers Frontline.
Yes, we really appreciate our police department. They've done a great job. Very well respected around the region, and they're doing a great job shifting gears in this time. And always thanks. Hopefully they hear it, and I know they appreciate it when they hear it from the public.
If residents will go to the Tigard Police Department's Facebook page or social media, there's a lot of articles on there as really as what the daily kind of what it's looking like and how there's been an increase in crimes or involvement or domestic violence, or there's been a lot more serious crimes, a lot more chases. I know lately when I've been kind of seeing some of that, there's been full-on chases. There's been a purse snatch that was done in one part that they chased a person somewhere else that went off on foot. There's been some shootings, some things like that. So if you go on there, you can kind of get an idea of what the police are doing and why this levy is important and why the extra officers are needed.
And they help out the Beaverton Police and Tualatin Police and Washington Square Task Force, and so they're all over. They're just not on our roads in Tigard. They're very valuable to the whole region.
There's a next statement that says it's time to open up businesses. A lot of the businesses are open. The one thing, excuse me, the governor was said is that unless this came out and said a business cannot be open at all, businesses can be open with social distancing, keeping different sanitation and those parts in order. And recently there is going to be a change to sit-down dining and to bars as far as be able to do some sit-down. So that's going to be coming very quickly as far as bars being able to be reopened and have at least limited sit-down on-site consumption and things like that. But if you take and I think Kent posted, post again, there is a link that shows what businesses are open Tigard, and we're trying to do the most we can to promote who's open and to let people know. I know I've been posting a lot of pictures on my social media of businesses open, and people didn't realize which ones are open, or maybe didn't even realize that business was in Tigard. So right now is a good time to just share with people what businesses are open, frequent those ones that do open, and are trying to work skeleton crews. A lot of business owners I've talked to, they've had to let go a lot of their staff. They're working majority of the time just enough to just pay for their rent and keep the lights on. Not necessarily even a profit, but just to be able to keep at least their location there and keep going until things get better.
So why isn't Tigard in phase 1 of reopening? And that is done by the counties. So Washington County has to apply to the state, as well as Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Marion County. Those are the 4 big ones that have had the most COVID cases. Washington County feels like it's in a pretty good position right now as cases are coming down, and they have their packet ready, so they will apply, I think, next week. And so it may be a week or 2 away, but we think it's coming, and that's why it's in phase 1. Tigard as a city has to follow the guidelines of the county and then obviously the state.
And those would be questions and responses directed towards the county. The county is the one that needs to finish their application applying with the governor to go ahead and reopen. So that's really where direct a lot of comments, responses to encourage the county to get that process and to go ahead and open back up for business. But we're trying to do what we can just to support those ones and give support to those ones that are open, and the ones that will be opening to give as much support as we can to those. And we are additionally looking at other things as far as parks are open right now, play structures aren't, and we're still trying to look at what we can do for dog parks. That's one of the biggest things we hear about is why the dog parks open, why have you opened them? And we're trying to figure out how to safely have people where they can go to dog parks where if 2 dogs were to intertwine and it brought contact either with the pets or the owners or things like that, how we can do something where we can open those dog parks back open and do it in a safe manner.
We're working on that. Hopefully that'll be soon. So Corrine, I'd love to hear any action councilors have taken personally in terms of volunteering time and donating resources to organizations helping the community. Packed with Pride, Home Plate, Just Compassion, the Good Neighbor Center, Bethlehem House, Unite Oregon are all working to mitigate COVID-19 impacts in our community. How can we help, and how are you helping? Well, great nonprofits that you mentioned here, Friends of the City for sure. There's a social service grants that they apply for every year, and we know these nonprofits very well. We, as council, allowed for some money and some these nonprofits applied for it was $100,000.
Yes.
Yeah, $100,000 split up between some of these. The Good Neighbor Center, for one, just needs the lights on, and they need more donations. I mean, everybody can use cash. If that's how you can help, that is one way for sure. Everybody can use some cash. Packed with Pride, a fantastic program that was really started for the pandemic, and they're packing food boxes and delivering those to families in need. I've worked with my church, Calvin Presbyterian, on some of these projects, and it's difficult. We don't need a ton of people because of the social distancing area, but cash certainly helps.
And as far as me, there's a lot of organizations. There's other ones that haven't been listed up there. Also, there's Family Promise, which is they help a lot. They're housing, I think, about 19 different families in hotels in Tigard, and paying for those vouchers. I'm on the board of directors with Family Promise. I've donated money to them. The Good Neighbor Center had an online auction. I purchased some of those items on there as well. The big thing is that there's a lot of these organizations have done their in-person auctions, but they've had to go online to do those, or some of them are having needs. So it's something where if you jump on those and either give cash, or some of these ones with Good Neighbor Center, Family Promise, some of those, they're looking for donations because when the people do come to them and they go find a place to live, they need items for household items, whether they need a table or chairs or some window dressings or something like that. There's all these different things they need. So you can donate items, you can donate money, you can see if with Pact with Pride, as Councilor Anderson said, if you want see help out them or donate money. I think the part two is just kind of sharing with people what organizations are out there, what they're doing. A lot of times Tigard residents may not realize how many nonprofits we do have in Tigard and what they do and how they do help out. But as Councilor Anderson said, we did give $100,000 that was divided into a handful of those ones. Not everyone was able to get something. We didn't have enough money to give every organization some money, but at least that was a small part that the city could do.
So next question from school board member Karen Emerson. Have your family, is that right?
Yes.
Karen, yeah, same Karen. Have your families been healthy? And what is your favorite way to maintain your mental health right now? My family, my wife and my son and my daughter have been healthy, and thank you for asking. Our favorite way to maintain our mental health, we have been watching movies practically every night, and we're watching a lot of classics that my kids have never seen. We watched Casablanca. Last night we watched The Man Who Knew Too Much, a Hitchcock thriller, and the kids are being exposed to some old great movies and having a discussion. My kids are older. I have a sophomore at Tigard High and a son who's a freshman in college. So they're kind of easy for us. I really, I was talking with Kent. He's got some smaller kids, and I really have a lot of sympathy for those folks who have small kids who have to be entertained all the time. They can't get out and play with other kids in the neighborhood and have a lot of energy. Good for you guys. Keep it together. This will be a period that they'll always remember, and good family bonding. But it is a problem for mental health.
And thank you again for asking. Family's healthy, and during this time, a little bit more board games, a little more activities at home. But I also found myself during this time a lot with working, council stuff, trying to work at the state and federal level on just getting more need and help to people, and doing some work as well, since I can do a lot of my work remotely. But it's been a good time to have a little more family time and spend time together during the time as well.
There's a question, are the outdoor playgrounds open? Not yet. So the parks are open, but the playgrounds and the dog parks aren't open yet. And we're getting close. The city manager's been putting together a packet that we're going to review probably next week. So they're going to be getting closer and closer all the time.
Yeah, that's just a hard area with the playground equipment, is with people on it, touching it, how to keep it safe, how to keep it clean. So that's a hard part, but all the trails and open areas and everything like that are definitely open, and Tiger's got a huge trail system for people to get out there and explore.
Jim says, what's the word on the shops opening back up? And we touched on that a little bit earlier. Washington County has to apply to open in phase 1, and that is getting close. Once they apply, then Tiger can start opening up some retail shops with social distancing. I don't know what kind of shops you're specifically asking about. I could certainly use a haircut. Those are all coming hopefully soon.
And downtown Tigard, I've seen that at the end of last week, some of the shops are starting to open. There's Musie's on Main is back open. Some of these places down there had a by appointment only. So Musie's on Main, Sherry's Jewelry Box, Curiosities, which is a kind of a giant flea market. I think they're looking at reopening. So some of these ones at the end of last week have been announcing on social media that they are reopening and slowly coming back. So I think even though we're not part of phase 1, we're seeing some businesses realizing that that's happening very shortly, and some of them are starting to take the initiative and kind of open back up, where maybe their employees weren't sure and weren't comfortable.
The Tiger Chamber of Commerce obviously is in touch with many of the businesses, and they're having workshops to educate the businesses on how to open up safely, and there's been a lot of good buzz around that. So as they learn how to configure their store and their door and how to allow so many people in, that'll all roll out hopefully smoothly.
The next question is from Rhonda. It says, hi, are you canceling 4th of July Festival and fireworks show this year? The festival is being canceled. I don't know if there's going to be a fireworks show still put on that you can see from a distance. I think that probably not, but a lot of events in Tiger have been canceled. The balloon festivals have been canceled. We've had in September, I think it is, the street fair. There's a Taste of Tiger. There's been a whole bunch of events over the summer that Tiger's had, kind of festivals or food events or things like that, and they've all been canceled. Just the big part is that right now you can have events of 25 people. We're hoping that maybe that can be bumped up to 200 or something like that, where people could hold events like weddings or things like that. But anything that's larger or big crowds or brings people from other areas, right now is not allowed, and we're not sure when that is. And the reason why these are being canceled is kind of hit a point of no return, where if a festival continues on, they might have outlived cash, and then we decide or it's determined that they can't hold the festival, then they're out that money. So that's why a lot of these decisions have been made already, even though they're months away.
It's unfortunate, of course.
And just a note from Ken, he reminded us that city events are canceled through August, including movies in the park and concerts in the park. So pretty much everything through the end of August in the city of Tigard for any really outdoor events, big gatherings, anything like that. That's part of what the city's working on, though, is how to find a way to replace some of these things with virtual or online or other ways we can go ahead and take care of it.
It's a shame. Those are fun events.
Next question from Veronica. Are we allowed to go into the water for stand-up paddling on the Tualatin River? And as far as I'm aware of, that you can paddleboard, you can kayak, you can do all those things on the Tualatin River. You can take your boat or kayak or anything like that down there and use the water. So that is open to be used. All the trail systems are open as well. And I think and outdoor recreation can be done, hiking on trails, all that stuff as well.
Yes, if you get warm enough weather, you can get out there.
Or if you brave the cold. Living in Tigard, does the ballot have to be dropped in Tigard, or can it be dropped in Multnomah County? If you look at your ballot, they're color coded, so it can actually be dropped anywhere in the state, and based on the color, it determines where your county is and where you live. They'll be sent back, so you can send it. You can drop it in any ballot box in Oregon, and it will be put back to your county and be counted properly. And as long as you get it dropped into the ballot box before 8 p.m. on Tuesday, it'll still be counted. It might just take a couple days to get over there and be counted, but it'll still be part of the count. And that's when it happens sometimes when we have elections where it can be very close. That's why it takes a couple days or more as you wait for those ballots to be from other places. Another thing that can delay ballots sometimes is if people do write-ins, then that has to be manually looked at. If there's no write-ins and just the bubbles are filled out, that goes right through the machine and is counted. But if you write in or circle any of their bubbles, or is there anything that might be a discrepancy, then someone looks at that and counts that ballot.
But that is a good point, Dan. At this, if you voted today, it's too late to mail it. So you do have to drop it off at a ballot receptacle, and there's one here right at City Hall. I'm sure there's a place that you can look up where they're at, but you would have to drop those off. Are we allowed to have small fireworks this year for the 4th of July? I think that's okay, as long as they're Oregon sanctioned fireworks. Again, it's a group thing. I think it's more important that you don't have a big group in a cul-de-sac firing off a bunch of fireworks because of the proximity and the group size.
Nothing's changed as far as what you can have for fireworks. The law's still the same, so what you've been able to do last year and the years past, you can still do now. I presume that some neighborhoods might look at doing some kind of a social distancing kind of get together where maybe they spread out 10 feet apart and have lawn chairs and kind of interact somehow, and then maybe light some of their own fireworks off. But nothing's changed as far as what you can do on the 4th of July with fireworks you purchase and everything like that.
Okay, we have a message that says we have 15 minutes left to go, so if you have any questions, get them in, and if we don't get them in on time, we'll get back to you somehow, but we're scheduled to go until 2 o'clock today.
And so for a recap, we currently, yesterday we had the budget process. That's if you go through the comments, there's a link to, you can go back and watch what the budget discussion was. We got presentations from our department heads that kind of went through what their funds for each of those departments are, how they're being spent, how they're used, what our current financial situation is. And then we have our final, most likely, budget cycle on Thursday night. We have the ability for people still to call in, comment, ask questions. And the reason it's being pushed off to Thursday is depending on the results of the levy, so we know how to, if it gets approved, or voters have passed the levy, we have to approve that money being spent and make that part of the budget. But then we have to take a look too at how other areas of the budget are going to be affected and what we need to do, and look at those final results. And then we do have a levy coming up, and election night is on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And we have a safety levy in Tiger, which is going to hire 8 new officers, a school resource officer, and provide mental health and de-escalation training for all officers. Currently we have 3 to 4 officers patrolling 5 patrol districts, so we don't have enough officers in each district, nor do we have enough to respond to 2 priority calls at the same time. With the school resource officer, why that's important too is currently we have 2 school resource officers. There's one at Tiger Tie, and the other one goes between Fowler Middle School and Twally Middle School. With the additional resource officer, we'll have one dedicated to Fowler, and then we'll be able to go down to all those additional elementary schools that feed into that. And they're going to be at Twally, that will also be able to go and visit and be part of all those elementary schools that feed into Twally. So it's a very important measure, and it's for the average household, you're looking at $6 a month for the average household in Tiger. So you're looking at the cost of a latte to have enough officers to respond to party calls, patrolling neighborhoods to keep it safe, to hopefully deter the possibility of burglaries and break-ins and things like that.
We have a question. When will Southwest Corridor be on the ballot? Southwest Corridor is the light rail train system that will be coming from Portland down aside Barber Boulevard and through Tigard and stopping around Bridgeport Village. So that's what that is. And that is part of a larger transportation packet that Metro is probably going to put on the ballot in November. That was the original timeline before COVID hit, and they still have the opportunity to pull that and maybe do it next year, but at this time it is still on for November. Have you heard anything different?
Well, no, not really on that, but the question is whether there's a couple different aspects of the Southwest Corridor, and just through the years, whether or not being on the ballot. There's been questions as far as when Tiger residents could vote on whether or not to want Southwest Corridor or not, and that vote did take place a couple years ago, where the residents did approve having Southwest Corridor, the light rail, come through Tigard. So I'm not sure if that was part of the question, or if there's the funding package, because there's the other part where there has to be funding for it. That we're looking at the project's gonna be somewhere around the neighborhood of 2.4 billion, and a big portion of that's gonna be coming, about 950 million is gonna be coming from local funds, and that's gonna be a ballot that the Metro, which oversees the region, they're gonna be putting on a ballot to have that funding. There's a measure called Get Moving T 2020, where it's gonna be, part of that's gonna be for the Southwest Corridor Light Rail funding, but then a lot more of that, I think that's gonna be a couple $1 billion package. But a lot of that's gonna be for infrastructure, road improvements, just looking at corridors, safety corridors like TV highway, doing things so it can be more crossable, walkable, safer for pedestrians and for motorists, work on road projects. So there's gonna be a lot to that. So if that was gonna be the question, it was being proposed for November. I think Metro's gonna have to take a look at and see how the current climate is, how people are, how if people are back to work, how people are feeling, whether or not they'll put that on that November ballot or not. But that is a must for the Southwest Corridor project. If that doesn't pass or that funding's not there, then there is no money to have the Southwest Corridor project, because you have to have matching funds for the federal government, and that's going to be this region's matching fund. There's been some money put in from state legislation and other areas, but that's something that Metro's going to have to decide. I think they're going to have to decide probably the next couple months what they're going to do, if it'll be this one or a further one. Next question, will masks be required once city facilities reopen? That hasn't been determined yet, so I'm not sure if we will or not. I know that there's some businesses in town where Costco or other places require you to have a mask on before you enter. I don't know if that'll be part of our reopening phase or part of the counties, whether those will be required or not. So we haven't got to that discussion, but it's something where the best way to really keep up to date on that is to follow either the city's social media, go to the city's website. The city does have an online newsletter that comes out every month, my apologies, and if that's something where you subscribe to that newsletter, that's a great way to stay in touch. And we also have, for this question and any future questions, and Kent can post the email address, but we do have a council email address that goes to all council, the assistant city manager, the city manager, that if you have questions or want to know something, or even want to talk about something that's going on in the city, or bring up an idea or suggestion, that's a great way to get that to everyone. We'll get a response. It goes on record with the city, and we always welcome people to either ask questions in that. It's something where if you can't find it and say, hey, I can't find this, or is it required or not, you can always shoot a quick email into there and ask as well.
And if you feel more comfortable wearing a mask, by all means, it's going to be in fashion for the next couple months, so don't be embarrassed about wearing a mask out there.
Next question from Veronica. Are they going to tear down Village Inn restaurant in Bridgeport? I know TriMet has been eyeing that spot for some time. I know that during the last couple of years in that process, there was a big movement to save the Village Inn, and the TriMet was looking for using that for a parking space, an area like that. And just recently, last week or so, Village Inn announced that they were going out of business and closing their doors for good. So I don't know though. I haven't heard, and I don't know what their business decision is to do with that building. If they're planning on selling that to someone else, if someone else is going to come in and buy and take over the Village Inn. But as of right now, that's being, they're saying they're closing their doors for good. So beyond that, I haven't heard anything. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of outcry by the community to save Village Inn, and TriMet accommodated that, and they were going to go up a little, north from Village Inn to have their big parking lot. So, but since they've gone out of business and the original owners aren't there, that's kind of taken care of itself. It's kind of a sorry state, but that's the way it is.
And that's something if to keep up on that project or anything like that, you can go to Southwest Corridor. There is a website that talks about what's going on in the projects, what the different routes or plans or basically plans for each stop in the areas. So there's a lot of information on there. I'm sure that'll be updated there as well, as if that does change or not, as far as the scope to go that far or not. That plan is ever changing until it kind of gets finalized and funding's there. Any plans for new businesses in downtown Tigard? There, there's a lot there down there that are great to support. A lot of people don't realize that we have an arcade, a pinball place down there. We have a escape room. There's a ping pong palace. There's a lot of great restaurants to eat, jewelry, shopping. There's a game place. I think currently next to Senate board games and so forth, there's a bakery that's going to be opening in the next couple months. I don't know if they're on track still or not with this pandemic. And there's an open spot across from Max's Fountain Creek Tap House. There's a big empty lot, and that's going to be it's delayed a little bit with just getting the permits and processing and things to do with COVID. There's going to be a 4-story building there with Ava Roasteries on the bottom. It's going to be their kind of flagship location to supply and give the coffee ground or beans and all their different food to their locations in the area. And then the top 3 stories is going to be some office and then some 1-bedroom living situations will be apartments. So I think there's going to be a couple dozen 1-bedroom apartments for rent, a whole floor for commercial business offices, and then there's going to be the coffee shop. And as far as that, I haven't heard of anyone else really looking at opening. I know that Councilor Anderson, his business is located down there, so he might know a little bit more.
First of all, we want to keep the businesses that are downtown Tigard, we want to keep them there. That some of those are hurting, of course, the restaurants, and that's mainly the ones that are hurting the most. We have some plans. I mean, Tigard's a very desirable place. People are looking to open up business, and Washington Square has a redevelopment plan. We've got plans for that area that have been slowed down. The Tiger Triangle by, kind of east of Costco. There's a lot of building going on up there that are in permit stages. So I think Tigard's going to continue to be a desirable place. It's got a great location, and so stuff is going to come. We just have to wait this COVID thing out.
I think that, and the biggest thing is, as Councilor Anderson said, is support the businesses that are down there. I saw something a while back that someone posted that said that we're always going to small businesses and asking them to support our Little League team or support our fundraiser or support our kids and have them buy some chocolates or put this flyer up in your window for this upcoming event. Right now is the time we really need to support our businesses. So the ones that are there right now, they've had 60, 70, 90% drops in their revenue. So right now it's really important to help them out. If you're looking at wanting to get something to eat or something like that, use DoorDash. Go frequent them. Buy gift cards. You can buy gift cards that you can use later on, months down the road. Buy some extra ones and give them out at Christmas time or something like that. It's a great way to support our existing businesses. And I can't emphasize that enough, just to really get out there. A lot of them are doing different things. We have a caterer, D'Angelo's Cater down in downtown Tigard, that once a week is having a meal pickup option where you can order your meals and go pick those up. So a lot of them are working on options they can do, which is especially like in the world of catering, where that might be a business that's dead for a year or more. With you can't do large gatherings. But take a look at our website. Kent posted it as far as what businesses are open in downtown Tigard, but not only downtown Tigard, Tigard in general. Find ways to do something locally. If you're currently purchasing items that you get printed, business cards, flyers, find a local businesses. We have a printing place downtown Tigard. There's a couple of print places in Tigard. There's an automotive place in Tigard. So if you have some repairs that you need done on your vehicle, go get those done at the automotive place. Find places in Tigard to do business that maybe you've ordered online or bought elsewhere. If you find an item you want, maybe look and see if that's something you can go to a shop in Tigard and get. And that's really what is the most important right now we can do to help those businesses and keep those ones open. That's what we're really trying to do, is keep the businesses that are there, keep them open. That's the hardest part. And not new businesses are opening, but just keep those ones open.
Okay, we have 1 minute. We've got one last question. It's called, they're from Wilder Jim Owens. Sorry, just dropping in. What's the story with the barbershops? And I'm with you, Jim. I need a haircut. So I've been watching this closely. I think it's a phase 2 of the reopening plan.
I have to revisit.
I'm not sure. Well,
yeah.
that's the county, right? The county has to apply for phase 1 reopening.
I think it falls in phase 1, maybe, but I don't know. We have to take a look. That's something that's we'd have to take a look and look.
Phase 1.
Yeah, phase 1. So we we mentioned earlier that Washington County has to apply for that. They're applying for that soon, and we'll get that done. Other counties are open, so I don't know if you can go elsewhere and get a haircut, but
You may
I'd
have-
wait for Tiger so we can support Tiger businesses.
You may have to wear a mask. I assume that the people cutting your hair are going to be wearing masks, but there'll be a process for that. And it's coming. It's coming soon.
And we have about 1 minute, and Facebook shuts us off if we go in an hour. So if we also cut out, so please, I encourage people to vote yes for the safety levy. We have a budget cycle going on. Tune in to Thursday's night budget cycle. Council email, please send any questions, responses to that. I'll follow up with the person that asked for the email address for unemployment benefits. And then anything, last words, Councilor Anderson?
Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. And again, we're always open for communication, but this is just kind of a formal thing.
Yes, and we're always here for businesses in our community, and please let us know what we can do to help you. Thank you and have a great day.